Well, hi guys, welcome back to Linda's Pantry. Today I am making a Pennsylvania Dutch handballs. What? I've never had these before. I am intrigued by the recipes out there. I've watched several videos, but I will just say this was totally inspired by the Mennonite farmhouse. And I printed out Leanne's recipe so I can follow her instructions. And so I did mince up, I had some leftover ham, and my husband is not a fan of just eating a slab of ham. He's just not going to do it. He likes it in things, and he was all, if Howard likes it, I'll probably like it. So you want a pound of ground ham. And in the Midwest, you can get this already ground. I had to grind this up yesterday. So I've got a pound of ground ham. You can use beef or pork. She said beef is better. They like it better. Ground pork, ground beef. So I'm using beef. So we're going to do that. You're going to need some breadcrumbs. These are homemade breadcrumbs. When I have, let's say, a loaf of French bread that's going south, or I've taken the middle out to make muffaletta sandwiches or stuffed sandwich, whatever you want to call it, I'll brown that off and crush those, and we have breadcrumbs all the time. So I'm going to need to soak these breadcrumbs. We need a cup of them. And I'm going to make a sweet and sour sauce with this, and with the addition of pineapple, which is optional, but we love it. We're going to have this with jasmine rice and some broccoli, steamed broccoli. So I've got 2 duck eggs. I've got some salt. I've got a half a cup of milk to soak my cup of breadcrumbs. So let's get that going first. We gotta soak these breadcrumbs. And some of these have a little bit of seasoning. It's not gonna hurt anything. Okay, let me bring you in close so you can see what's going on. My cup of breadcrumbs right here. And I'm gonna soak them in a half a cup of milk. And I'll leave the recipe in the description box for you as well, or the link to Leanne's recipe, but there's lots of them out there. So you want to soak these breadcrumbs. This is going to end up, if you do this, you will have a very tender meatball. I would be very tempted to add ricotta cheese. That's what I do with my Italian meatballs, and it makes the most tender, succulent meatball. So we're going to leave that for about 5 minutes. And we've got 2 duck eggs. I'm going to go ahead and crack them in this. And these shells are super tough. I don't know what it is with duck eggs. They have, literally, you got to pry them open. I get them from my neighbor, and they're wonderful. Look at that yolk. It's huge. Let's see if I can get you closer. And duck egg number 2. I love cooking with them. Because of the high protein and the moisture, they end up really making things hold on to moisture. And we're going to put a little beat on that egg just to get it started a little bit while we're waiting on the breadcrumbs. And look at that. It's like you already added water. The yolks are very rich. And you really don't have to beat those up, but I just wanted to get a little start on them. And then that way I don't have to work so hard. Okay, let me, once these breadcrumbs have done their thing for 5 minutes, I'll bring you back and we'll get started with the rest of the story. Preheat your oven. We need to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Okay, so I am ready to get this process going. So we're just going to combine everything. Now we need a 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar, and I've got my container here. Quarter cup of packed brown sugar. I already put my pound of ground beef in there. I'm going to add my pound of ground, this is, if you see any big chunks, you want to get them out of there. Not having a food processor sometimes makes things challenging. I had to do this in the blender. My meat grinder for the KitchenAid did not want to do this. So I'm not sure why, but I was like, okay, well, I can skin that rat a different way. All right, now we're gonna add, it says a half a teaspoon of salt. I don't know, the ham's gonna have a lot of salt, so I'm just doing a couple pinches there. 2 tablespoons of ground mustard. I saw some people use Dijon mustard, which I love Dijon mustard. I would probably use that. I went ahead and I'm gonna go by the recipe the first time, and then after that I will modify. Okay, so I'm gonna put on some gloves because I do not want my hands necessarily getting disgusting before I am ready to turn the camera off. It's hard to turn the camera off when your hands are gunky. You don't want to touch all that stuff. So anyways, okay, double checking. I got everything in the bowl. Now we're going to add our eggs, right? And that's the moisture, the egg and the milk and breadcrumbs. Okay, let's get to mixing. There's no other way to do it than to get in there and get it done. And you want to mix it thoroughly. You could do this with a like put it in your KitchenAid with the dough hook, or the Bosch even, with the dough hook, and let it mix it. But we're going to do it the old-fashioned way here. You don't want to see any veins of different colored meats. It should all look homogenized together by the time you're done. And if you feel any chunks of anything, so it's got a little sweetness. I also saw recipes, and I wouldn't mind trying it to see how that comes out. If we like these, let's wait and see if we like them. But and it makes a lot. This is a lot of food right here. We may have to freeze some, or I might have to share them at work. Oh, and some recipes call for onion, like grated onion. I love that sound of that, but I'm going to follow this just right the way it is, and then we'll modify it later. I also saw, what I was going to say is I saw recipes that called for ground up, crushed graham crackers. What a different little sweet treat that is. Okay, so I feel like I've got a pretty good mix going, and it's time to make your meatballs. Okay. I think I've got it mixed pretty good. Okay. And the meatballs that I saw were pretty big. I have sprayed this beautiful baking dish. Thank you, Beth. This was a wedding gift. Very sweet wedding gift. So I don't want giant meatballs, but I don't want them little either. And I'm probably going to have a couple different pans, like we'll say that size. And because if they get too big, you're just not going to eat them. You're going to cut them, obviously, but so get your meatballs all formed here. Now, the recipe I'm following, she cooks them a little bit first to get a little bit of crust on them, and then sauces them, because you're going to have like a sweet and sour sauce. That's where the pineapple's coming in to play. So yeah, I'm going to have to get a big old pan for this. I'm examining. Or you could just freeze the rest, and you'll have the mixture already made. But that meat was, I don't think ham freezes as well as other meats. I'm not crazy about the texture when it comes out. So we'll just cook these all off, and then you could freeze it. Does that make sense? I don't know. That might be the same thing. Because it's cooked. Now it'd just be cooked twice. Okay. I know my brother-in-law will help us out if we have way too much. So will my peeps at work. But I think we're going to keep this in the family. All right. I'm going to continue on. Rinse and repeat until I've got this all in the pans that I want. And I'll bring you back. We'll get them in the oven. The oven is preheating right now. We'll get them in the oven, get a little brown crust on them, and then while they're in the oven, I'll bring you back and we'll make the sauce. Okay. Let's see how many we can fit in this pan. Super excited. So I could probably half this recipe, or like I said, freeze the meatballs after we've cooked them. And but we don't mind leftovers. I got plenty of leftover appetite. Okay, one more meatball in there. And then I'll get a different baking dish. Okay. Oop, that one needs a little more. Can't have it smaller than the other guys. So what are we gonna do then? Okay. So that's a nice, that's plenty for us. Seriously. More than enough for us, but that's okay. Okay, I'll be back with the rest of the story. Okay, now it's time to make the sauce. In this measuring cup, and I'm doubling her recipe on the glaze. The sweet and sour glaze, the recipe calls for 1/3 of a cup of water. I'm using 2/3. It also calls for 1/2 cup of vinegar. I have got 1 cup of vinegar and 2/3, or 1 cup of vinegar and 2/3 of a cup of water. That's going to be your sour, part of your sour. A cup of brown sugar. I'm not quite doubling that. Oh my gosh. Okay. We're going to double the brown sugar. I'm just going to put what I've got left in this canister. And we'll call it 2 cups. If it looks like I need more, I'll get more, but I don't think I will. I'm guessing it's going to be sweet enough because we're going to add pineapple, which that is optional. I don't believe she did that in her video, but I'm adding, says 4 ounces of crushed pineapple. I chopped this chunked pineapple and the juice in heavy syrup. So again, I think I'm okay without the additional brown sugar, but I will, like I said, I will put the recipe down below. But we love pineapple. And with the jasmine rice, it's gonna be so good. I'm super excited. Can you tell I'm excited about this? Okay, then you need, oh my gosh, yes you do. You need mustard. And this time we're using regular yellow mustard. So I need 2 tablespoons of yellow mustard. Okay, because I'm doubling it again. So that is going to go on the stove. We're going to heat that up. And when the handballs are about halfway through, then we'll start saucing them. And this will be enough sauce for both pans. I did the one round pan, and then I did an 8x8 pan for another 4, 8, 16 meatballs. So that makes a lot. It makes, Leanne said about 30 meatballs. I don't know if I have 30, but I got quite a few. So, and hers never last. So I'm going to get this on the stove, heat it up, and it is going to create this yummy sticky sauce that is going to be decadent for these meatballs. Okay, so we have our meatballs have got a little bit of a crust started, and I've got this sauce. I did thicken it a little bit with a tablespoon of cornstarch, just a cornstarch slurry. And the dogs are welcoming my husband back in from mowing, which is wonderful. So we're going to dish this right over the top of these meatballs. And, oh, I am super excited about this. You're going to have a syrupy, okay. And those were happy to receive it. That's what's going back in the oven for the rest of the cooking time. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so the handballs are done. I've checked the temperature. They're way done. The sauce, I did thicken it, and only because I felt like it wasn't going to thicken enough. And I feel like I'm right in that we would like a little bit thicker, more of a sauce than anything. So I'm going to, oh, yeah. I have some jasmine rice here. And I'm going to grab a meatball. Oh, maybe 2. We'll grab 2. That's a good serving for me. Grab some sauce. And the top of the meatballs got a nice little crust on them. So, whew, they're hot. Hot, hot. I have broccoli steaming. We're going to have that as well. I'm excited, you guys. I've never had these. And, ooh, the interior, look at that. Let's look at the interior of that meatball. Mm-hmm. Okay, a little jasmine rice. It's screaming hot. Please don't burn my mouth. Here, we'll cut it in half again. My mouth is watering. I'm super hungry and I'm so curious. It's funny when you try a new recipe and you can't wait. You want to do a sneak taste test, but you know, nope. I want the response to be genuine here on camera. Okay, here we go. Okay, that sauce is sweet. It's very sweet. Okay. Pineapple-y. The meatball itself, let me just try to focus on that. Super tender. Very flavorful. These are wonderful. I can see why the Pennsylvania Dutch love these. This is a great way to use up some ham, some ground beef, or some pork, and make it into a delicious, tender meatball that everybody's going to enjoy. These would be kid-friendly as well as adults. Okay, one more. Guys, I hope that this inspires you to check out that recipe. I'll leave the recipe down in the description box or the link to it, and you can go over and check it out. You can make the changes you want to make. This is going to be perfect paired with some steamed broccoli that's on the stove. I'm going to get that off and we're going to eat some dinner. All right. Can't wait to see you next time. Bye. This recipe is delicious. We enjoyed these so very much. I will make them again and again.